Mexico is exploding. It ain't good, and if you got plans for a trip to Puerto Vallarta or whatever, you might just want to think twice about that because it is a mess. In fact, do not go to Mexico, period, full stop. Ex-gang member charged with stabbing Derek Chauvin, the former police officer who was convicted in the murder of George Floyd, which we all know didn't happen. He died of a drug overdose, but that's a story for another day. And the question that nobody is asking. It is an interesting one we don't have an answer for, but I'd like one. Welcome to the Jay Sheldon Show. Happy Monday. Yeah, we're late, Danny. You are right. Good morning. We're late because it's a Monday and the shit hit the fan right off the bat. So there you go. That's my best and only explanation for why we're late, because it hit the fan. Right as I'm getting ready to go, and I realize I got a setting wrong. So there you go. All right, Mexico, it is exploding. It is now an open war between the cartels and the Mexican military. It is an absolute nightmare. Like I said, a lot of Americans vacation down in different spots and hot spots in Mexico. Hopefully, I've got two friends that right now are in Puerto Vallarta on a holiday. Troy and Joe, my prayers go out to you. I hope that you are safe. Please shelter down. Do not venture out. It is far too dangerous. The stories coming out of not just Puerto Vallarta, but all places in Mexico. Yesterday, the mess started. Resort town of Puerto Vallarta locked itself down. Travel warnings. Tourists advised to stay within the resorts, shelter in place. Rumors the fighting was all kicked off by the Mexican military killing a notorious cartel goblin, absolute scum of the earth, Ruben Nasmacio Oseguera Cervantes, also known as El Mencho. He is the leader of Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG. That killing has been confirmed since all this started. Now, last night, Mexico has been completely plunged into a war between the Mexican government and the cartels. And the cartels do not play by the rules, my friends. You know that. The military, again involved, indications the cartels may have the government outgunned. And that ain't good. Mexican forces seized rocket launchers capable of shooting down aircraft during this operation on Sunday. Authorities have previously linked this cartel to a 2015 attack in Jalisco, in which the cartel gunmen used rocket-propelled grenades to bring down a military helicopter. One of the stark examples of cartel directly engaging federal forces with what amounts to simply battlefield-grade weapons. They have these things. Not only do they have them, they're using them. Sunday's raid, they say, of security forces attacked, returned fire, deployed aircraft, specialized units. Authorities said troops seized armored vehicles and heavy weapons, equipment more commonly associated with armed conflict than your usual law enforcement operations. So, the cartels are now fielding surface-to-air missiles. You ought to be very concerned about that. That is a wickedly bad sign. Makes you wonder what other hardware these morons have at their disposal. Sunday's raid has now prompted a response from the cartels. This is an absolute nightmare. Mexico's most significant blows to organized crime amidst pressure from President Trump to intensify the crackdown on these drug cartels. This death of this leader, the violence in Mexico has gone ballistic. There's no way this is a good sign. U.S. Embassy telling all Americans in Mexico to shelter in place. The U.S. now in the interesting position of having a failed narco state on our southern border, wherein the cartels, which are totally entrenched by drugs, human trafficking, are basically directly taking on the Mexican military. They're right in their faces, and the Mexican government. They've apparently set the civil authorities back on their heels, and now the Mexican military is involved. This country has just absolutely descended into utter chaos. If you are there, I doubt very much you're watching this show, but heed the U.S. Embassy's warnings. Shelter in place. It's going to be a while before it will be safe for you to even leave whatever resort you're staying at. And don't dust it off because you can still order a Mai Tai at the pool bar. This is a very, very real threat, and your life is in real danger. They have, in fact, these cartels even threatened to enter into these premises and kill everybody in sight. The president of Mexico is not running Mexico. The cartels are running Mexico. President Trump said, I've asked her numerous times, would you like us to take out the cartels? And her response was, no, 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 Mr. President, please.
Well, it wasn't meant to be, and we're very friendly with her. She's a good woman, but the cartels are running Mexico. She's not running Mexico. The cartels are running Mexico. And we could be politically correct and be nice and say, oh, yes, she is. No, she's very, she's very frightened of the cartels. They're running Mexico. And I've asked her numerous times, would you like us to take out the cartels? No, 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 Mr. President. No, 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 please. So we have to do something because we lost. The real number is 300,000 people, in my opinion. They like to say 100,000. 100,000 is a lot of people, but the real number is 300,000 people. And we lost it to drugs, and they come in through the southern border, mostly the southern border. Plenty come in through Canada, too, by the way, in case you don't know. But they come in through the southern border, and something's going to have to be done with Mexico.
Indeed, something is going to have to be done with Mexico. We cannot sit here and just have this happen before our eyes. It doesn't work that way. Sorry, just got to fix my monitor there. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Do we have that YouTube clip? We do. Hang on just 1 second. This is a video from YouTube which shows the unrest going on down there. It is horrific. Vehicles burning, fires in regions across Mexico. Absolutely insane. A city on fire. All done by the cartels. Drone footage here. Like I said, if you are in Mexico, in one of these resort cities, please stay where you are. Do not go out. It may seem all safe and cozy for you. By the way, you see that Costco right there? Go back just a bit. Go back again. There, you see that? That Costco? It's gone. They went on later to burn the entire thing down. Unbelievable. Outrageous. What will Trump do now? I wish I had an answer for you. I don't. Sadly, I do not. Something has got to be done. President of Mexico keeps turning down the help we're offering, which is insane. But she's the president of Mexico, so what are you going to do? Did I miss what prompted this war? Yes. The killing of the head of this cartel. His name, he is known as El Mencho, the leader of the CJNG, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. The Mexican military took him out because he was a bad guy. So that's what prompted this mess. Incredible. Hey, you got a flight going out of, say, New York, New Jersey? You might have a little bit of an easier time of it, and that's because DHS has suspended the TSA pre-check and global entry as a massive winter storm hits during the Democrat shutdown. Oh boy, ain't that nice? Before we get to that, though, we want to get to this, and that is stay free, stay awake, the goodness that is Blackout coffee. There's a lot of coffee brands out there. There's a lot of them online. Some even created and made by podcasters themselves. Timcast IRL's got their own brand. Couple of them. Sean Ryan, great show, by the way. Well, we've got a partner here in Blackout Coffee, and we are proud to be partnered with them because they are an American company. They work with local co-ops, American farmers to grow the absolute best beans in all the perfect conditions. And then they only roast them after you order, so they are fresh. In most cases of the more famous roasts, normally it would come as a whole bean, roasted beans, and then you grind them up into your coffee. Now, they offer all of their popular roasts in ground options. You see that right there? Ground. Select your option. My favorite, pitch black espresso. Another great way and yes, they have coffee pods, instant, cold brewed. Another great way to build your coffee arsenal, get signed up for their subscription service and you can save a bunch of cash too. You choose your roast, set your delivery date, and then lock in your subscriber pricing. You get great deals on the pricing for Blackout Coffee when you subscribe. More coffee, more control, absolutely zero hassles. Get rewarded plus save up to 20%, free shipping. You can change flavors anytime you like, absolutely. And you can skip or cancel whenever you want to. It's a great idea right there. Use the link in our show notes. Get over there to Blackout Coffee. And don't forget to use the code J20 at checkout for 20% off your first order at Blackout Coffee. Coffee for patriots like you and I. All right. DHS is suspending TSA pre-check and global entry nationwide as of 6 a.m. yesterday morning. Democrat-triggered DHS shutdown entered its second week, and that just as a major storm moved into the Northeast corridor. More than 40 million vetted travelers rely on these expedited screening programs. Sorry, not going to happen. Snow and ice threatening major hubs all the way from Washington to Boston, corridors that handle thousands of daily departures. Those passengers are getting routed right back into your standard security lines. Thought you were going to sail through? Ain't happening now, and you can thank the Democrats. They're pausing the programs, part of an emergency staffing measure after Congress failed to pass funding. Department pausing its TSA PreCheck global entry programs, one of several emergency measures the agency said it's taking to redirect staffing. Security checkpoints remain open. TSA officers still screening passengers. But expedited benefits are suspended. Blame the Democrats. Enrollment operations halted. Blame the Democrats. Trusted traveler privileges effectively stripped during a funding fight. Prior federal shutdowns, enrollment slowed, but PreCheck lanes, global entry kiosks all remained up and running. This time the suspension goes further, and those have been shut down. Third time Democrat politicians have shut down this department during the 119th Congress. Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary, said shutdowns of serious real-world consequences, not just for the men and women of DHS and their families who are going without a paycheck, but it endangers our national security, and man, is that ever true. Under DHS's September 2025 shutdown plan, about 90% of the workforce continued operating, many without pay. First missed paycheck is scheduled for March 3rd, according to an estimated 63,000 TSA officers. Those reallocations colliding directly with this winter weather, which is hitting the Northeast, slowing air traffic rotation and requires an extra 20 to 40 minutes for de-icing procedures, widens the departure spacing, increase the risk of cascading cancellations. Nice mess, huh? Thanks, Democrats. TSA shared a post in an update for X, indicating as of Sunday, PreCheck remains operational, subject to change, based on staffing needs. Courtesy escorts, including those for members of Congress, not so much. Good. Suffer, biatch. State of the Union address coming up tomorrow, and some 20 leftist idiot Democrats are boycotting the State of the Union address. Well, how patriotic of them, huh? I got an idea, though. Mr. Trump, our beloved president, how about you take those seats, those idiot 20 Democrats who are boycotting the State of the Union, how about you take those seats and you give them away with these angel moms and dads of the Americans who were raped and murdered by the illegals these scumballs let in. How about that, huh? Just a few of the faces of the people murdered, sexually assaulted, and the reason why we are still out there fighting every day to get rid of these criminals. So find 20 of these angel moms and dads who've lost children to these criminal illegals. Those 20 Democrats don't want to show up. You give their seats away to them. I think that is a brilliant, brilliant idea. Far more deserved to have those seats filled by the angel moms and dads than by these disrespectful, idiot, troublemaking Democrat morons. This story happened months ago. So, why are we only hearing about it now? That sadly is a good question. Again, I don't have the answer to. A U.S. prison inmate who was charged with attempted murder after stabbing Derek Chauvin, the ex-police officer convicted in the death of George Floyd, you remember. Prosecutors said ex-gang member John Turskak used an improvised blade to knife Chauvin 22 times November 24th of last year at a prison in Tucson, Arizona. He survived the attack, said to be in stable condition, serving multiple sentences for Floyd's death, which of course we all know is just an absolute sham trial, and Floyd died of a drug overdose. Go ahead, come at me, I'm ready. Turskak, the stabber, former member of a Mexican mafia gang. Oh, how nice. Allegedly targeted Chauvin in the prison's law library at lunchtime. He later said he'd been considering killing Chauvin for about a month because of his status as a high-profile inmate. What, for jealousy? He told correctional officers he would have killed Chauvin if they hadn't reacted so quickly. Later denied that to FBI agents. Said he wanted to take out the former officer's life, according to court papers. He's 52. He told FBI agents he attacked Chauvin on Black Friday, as the day after U.S. Thanksgiving is known, as a symbolic connection to Black Lives Matter. And the black hand symbol with the link to the Mexican mafia. Now, I'm not so sure about this, but the prison records show this knuckleheaded idiot being listed with his race as Caucasian, like as in white. So he did this in support of Black Lives Matter? Okay. Black Lives Matter led nationwide racial justice rallies, of course, in the aftermath of the killing of Floyd. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, whose office prosecuted Chauvin, said the aftermath of the stabbing that he was sad to learn of the attack. And only just now this story is coming out. Bit odd, don't you think? Thought so. Affluent, white, female liberals. AWFLs. Is there an acronym there? A waffle? No, I don't think that works. Anyway, they are living in a completely made-up, whack job world. And they're old. Not that there's anything wrong with being old. But, try knitting or something, photography maybe. Find yourself some other sort of hobby to get your day going along. The land of make-believe eventually is going to come to an end. Sobriety and rationality, hopefully, we pray, will be restored. We pray this correction doesn't come in the form of a hot war or some sort of natural disaster. There was a recent viral video with an angry mob which was composed almost entirely of white women, hurtling expletives at the staff of the Minneapolis Core Power Yoga Studio, berating them because they reportedly removed anti-ice signage. Their verbal onslaught apparently worked in this case. The females revealed just how many women live in the land of make-believe, where everyone magically bends to their will. How nice. This rather tiny glimpse into the world of make-believe, perpetuated by affluent white female liberals, which kind of is an acronym for awful. I like that, awful. It has been a long time in coming. A lot of people waking up to the saccharine dreams where awfuls can do whatever they want, nobody touches them, the rest of us have to conform, and then we have to go in afterwards and completely clean up their total messes. Yeah. For decades, the West has built itself around the ideal life for these women, requiring very little in the way of sacrifice for these awful women. Inconvenience, earnest effort, any real scrutiny. In today's world, of course, it's good to be a victim. Everybody wants to be a victim. Everybody's a victim. Nothing's my fault. It was caused by something or someone else. I'm a victim. It is a made-up world, people. Most of us have grown up and realized what reality is all about. These idiots certainly have not. In order to understand the origins of the land of make-believe, you got to go back to even before Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Most of human history has not had entire generations come and go without experiencing a hot war of some kind. Aggressive overthrow, famine, economic downturn, some other significant life-threatening event. Like realities like this, we're told they stymie culture. They don't build culture. They retard it. Curiously, though, for all of our contemporary comfort, plenty, cultural growth, it hasn't been what you'd expect. Living in Italy for 2 years, the writer says there's always a question at the back of her mind as she walked through the heart of Rome every day to morning mass, followed by morning cappuccino. Said, why is all this so beautiful, while the same walk in most any American city would leave you very cold, completely uninspired? And it's true. The sheer saturation of it all, marked very clearly, but no uniformity. Pantheon's hole in the ceiling, Piazza Navona's breadth and fountains, the regal Romanesque of Santa Maria in Trastevere, the living marble of Apollo and Daphne at the Borghese Gallery. None of these was the fruit of people who had enough leisure and comfort to just sit on their ass and simply create wealth and luxury. In fact, the opposite seems to be true in a place like Florence, where it was the local skirmishes that produced all the best art, the best architecture, the best literature, the best saints the world has ever seen. C.K. Chesterton explained in his autobiography of St. Francis. He said, if we infer from our own experience that war paralyzed civilization, we must at least admit that these warring towns turned out a number of paralytics who go by the names of Dante and Michelangelo, Aristo, Titian, Leonardo, Columbus, Not to mention Catherine of Siena, the subject of this story, St. Francis of Assisi. While we lament all this local patriotism as a hubbub of the Dark Ages, it seems a rather curious fact, it's again the writer, that about 3/4 of the greatest men who have ever lived came out of these little towns and were very often engaged in these little wars and battles. Remains to be seen what will ultimately come of our large towns, but there's been no sign of anything of this sort since they became large. AstroTurfed, ginned up, back to the awful moron white women. The protest, local mode of violence which ends in scorn, very superficial world of social media and screenshots and shorty videos, selectively edited content. And if you can't take your grievance to the street, ladies, say it in the workplace, academia, the mean girls, or core power yoga women. They're ready to step in. The same general effect on a smaller scale, silencing the opposition and canceling the competitors, which is exactly what they want. The land of make-believe will eventually come to an end. Sobriety, rationality will come back into fashion again, we hope. We'll pray this correction doesn't come in the form of a hot war, deadly famine, natural disaster, but through the wisdom that sees that true human flourishing requires the truth about human nature. It requires sacrificial love in the form of discomfort, self-gift, doing things that are not easy. Until we grasp this, until we understand this, and restore the beauty, the richness of what it means to truly be male and female, there will be no end to these awful AWFL women. They plague us now day in, day out in their little land of make-believe. We just need to be patient and know that they will, hopefully sooner than later, just simply go away. Let's hope so, shall we? What else we got? I got one for you. A little comment about Jeffrey Epstein, just a small one. But very important, I might add. Based on the most recent 2026, 2025 releases of documents related to Epstein, no matter how much you dig or anybody digs through, there is no apparent evidence of a single successor to Epstein supplying his former network of high-profile associates. Instead, the focus has been on the aftermath of his 2019 death and the 2022 conviction of his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, recent developments regarding the Epstein list and associates, including criminal case closure, Ghislaine currently serving a 20-year sentence for sex trafficking, apparently to no one, death of his associates, key individuals, French modeling agent Jean-Luc Brunel, identified as a co-conspiracy, died of suicide in a French prison in 2022. Active investigations, the U.S. House Oversight Committee, Department of Justice releasing millions of pages of documents. They detail rather than replace Epstein's 10,000 person contact network. And the recently released documents show that while a lot of the individuals named in this circle, including politicians, business leaders, academics, they had active contact with him up until his arrest. No formal client list has ever actually been produced by the DOJ. But here's the thing, and no one is asking this question. Who is supplying these people now with, in most cases, underaged boys and girls? Their desires certainly did not go away. I can guarantee you that one. So Ghislaine is in prison. Epstein is allegedly dead. And these scumballs are still out there. These clients, these pizza and grape soda and jerky people still exist. They're not dead. They didn't go away. Hell, a whole bunch of them are still serving in Congress. So who's taken over for Epstein? Where are they getting their supplies now? I don't have an answer. I'd like one. Why has no major news outlet asked that question? It needs to not only be asked, it needs to be answered. And so far, crickets. Pete Hegseth. I love me some Pete Hegseth. He is now in trouble. Would you like to know why? Pete Hegseth is in trouble because he met the exact standards he demands for others. Yeah, you heard that right. The idiot left is involved in an all-out attack on the policies, of course, of the Trump presidency. We know that. We're almost tired of talking about it. But most of those attacks are not aimed at policies, per se. They're aimed at specific people, specific agencies, Hegseth, ICE, Kristi Noem. The nation remains completely in favor of getting rid of illegals, but thanks to the lies that the left has been pushing and their stenographers in the media, they're becoming dissatisfied with how immigration and customs enforcement agents are operating. Kristi Noem, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., targets of personal attacks, insane. J.D. Vance, he alone has had his faith, his wife, his marriage attacked. In fact, it seems now the more successful the admin official is, the more unhinged and the more deranged the attacks become. In fact, it seems it's getting worse by the day. Very few members of Trump's cabinet have had a greater impact, undergone more ridiculous attacks from the left than the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. Now, when he was nominated to his current position, the U.S. military was basically swirling around in the toilet bowl, waiting to get sucked down. Services controlled by those who, in the words of the author of Genesis, just sold their birthright for a mess of pottage. They traded away their warfighting skills, their military honor, traditions, loyal service to the nation in favor of mindlessly serving whatever fad was hitting the military academia. Hegseth's changes began very early. His famous all-hands meeting, remember that? Part of that speech was to call for physical fitness. Under the previous admin, the standards got corrupted to ensure that every variant of sexual perversion would get qualified to be a part of the military, whether or not you could pass the tests or not. Sure, bring 'em all in. Behind-the-scenes changes had made the military what it is now, have directly contributed to this amazing recruiting numbers. The Department of War and their flawless execution of 4 separate combat operations, air campaign directed at Iran's nuclear weapons, interdiction of narcotics trafficking in the Caribbean, Eastern Pacific, embargoing dark fleet tankers from running bootleg oil to Cuba and China, and of course the capture of Venezuelan jefe Nicolas Maduro. One of Hegseth's trademarks is his physical fitness. The man is fit, folks. Not only in great shape himself, but when he visits units, he makes a point of taking part in their physical fitness training sessions with the troops. So last Friday, Hegseth, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and while they're reconnected up with the unit he served in Afghanistan. An officer in the Minnesota Army National Guard, he served as an infantry platoon leader in the 3rd Battalion, 187th Infantry Regiment, aka the Rakazans, Japanese word for falling umbrellas, parachutes. And he earned a reputation as a very tough and a very capable combat leader. Predictably, Hegseth did physical training with the Rakazans, and just as predictably, he got all kinds of crap for it from the left. The insinuation that the Secretary of War should be bunkered down is ridiculous. Any operation planned in Iraq is under the purview of the U.S. Central Command. If the Secretary of War is tied up in operational planning, well, then he needs to fire some people. Moreover, you cannot allow the movements of a single individual to serve as a warning to our enemies when operations are imminent. They can do that by looking at the pizza website. What really pissed off the left was when Hegseth was bench pressing. He bench pressed 315 pounds. Yeah! Ow! This was nearly a metaphor for Hegseth's career, folks. He faltered, almost failed to make it, but when it counted, he absolutely came through, 110%. Suddenly, X is inundated with people who claim, 315 pounds, that was nothing. One moron claimed 3/4 of the guys in his high school class could do it. Another school claimed it was all fake. Reality check, dude. You see those troops standing there? You think a single one of them would let Hegseth get by claiming he'd pressed 315 pounds if he hadn't really pressed? Or if he'd pressed 314 pounds? You think an E4 is intimidated by rank and won't call out anybody, including a general, if they think they can get away with it? You obviously know nothing. about any branch of the U.S. military, you morons. There were imbeciles that pointed out that the 6 plates on the bar weighed 45 pounds each, and then he only pressed 270 pounds, loudly announcing to the world they were utter strangers to moving iron because the bar itself weighs 45 pounds. Duh. Unbelievable. You ever spot for somebody who lifts weights? Or had someone spot for you? You recognize this pattern. It's important the lifter be in charge. Let the spotter know when he's needed and when he's not. If that was berating, I got no idea they would have written if they'd watched me trying to do anything even close to that. Not going to happen. The bottom line is Hegseth is there and he is building a bond with the troops. Unlike any Secretary of War or Defense in this country's history, he's showing them he can walk the walk that he is imposing on them. If I'm asking you to do it, I will do it myself. There's not much more to inspire troops than exactly that. They do it because they want to do it. They want to follow him. They want to support this country and all the good that it stands for. Hallelujah for that. All right. As we mentioned, it is snowing across a great deal from Washington to Boston and places in between. They've had a hell of a time. They're calling it Jim Snow 2.0. I don't know what's going on where you're living, but a lot of people in New York are trying to get out and shovel themselves out. And a lot of people apparently would like to volunteer to run out into the streets with their shovels and help maybe shovel out an elderly neighbor or something like that. Well, if you want to do that, Ma'am Danny is requiring, I can't even, multiple forms of ID in order to help clear New York streets. Sometimes, compared to their pot-banging protests, these idiot Democrats just seem like they're trying to outdo themselves. Whether Trump's ideas are good or bad doesn't play a part in their decision-making. All that matters to them is that they thwart him at every turn. The hypocrisy, however, seemingly knows no bounds. We all know they fly around in fuel-guzzling private jets, attend faraway climate conferences where they work to take away our gas stoves. We know they claim to care about crime and then do just about everything they can to help it move along. And we know that they claim to be the party of women, even though they allow males to injure females in sporting events and then afterwards hang out naked in the ladies' locker room. Isn't that nice? Well, Democrat, socialist, moron mayor Zoran Mamdani has taken this duplicity to brand new heights. Oh, man. When it comes to New York City's snow removal, you can help out. The mayor said it Saturday. When you show up to help out with the snow removal, be sure to bring along 2 forms of ID. which means that no one other than white people can help out with the shoveling because, minorities are too stupid to be able to get an ID, right? Right? Leftists have been fighting tooth and nail against the SAVE Act, which would require the voters to prove who they are. Crazy concept, huh? They've claimed it's a Jim Crow law. Racist. Discriminates against women because apparently also, in addition to minorities, females are also too stupid to update their IDs. Oh, it's a threat to democracy. So if you want to help out shoveling snow in New York, that's fine. Just be sure and bring 2 forms of ID with you, if you're smart enough to know how to get one. Good luck with that. Oh, man, the Shevitz were done. Yeah, thank you, folks. That's it. We're out of here. Hey, be sure and subscribe. Hit that follow button if you're watching us live on Rumble or in our VOD playback. We also upload a version of our show with video onto our YouTube channel, The Jay Sheldon Show. Hit us up over there and make sure you subscribe and give us a like, a thumbs up. And also, we put the show on X. The audio part of our show becomes a podcast, which you can find on Spotify, Apple iTunes, all the podcast platforms. We're there, and we hope that you will check us out. Make a purchase from our sponsor. Make a donation to help keep the show free for you and help us along. Our PayPal link is down there in the show notes also. Lots of good info down there in the show notes. Check it out. I'll be back again tomorrow for the Tuesday edition of the Jay Sheldon Show. Dan Bongino coming up next at 10.